The Black Phone was directed by Scott Derrickson and stars Mason Thames, Madeline McGraw, and Ethan Hawke. And it tells the story of a boy who, after being abducted by a child killer and locked in a soundproof basement, starts receiving calls on a disconnected phone from the killer's previous victims. So I usually watch at least 3 horror movies every week. Doesn't matter where the source is, whether it's cinema or streaming. I have to watch horror every week. I'm that big a horror fan. And this entire year thus far, I've seen a bunch. I've seen stuff that's been funny, entertaining, interesting. The most visceral, I think, is Men. When I watched Men, I was like, that was impressive cinematically. The story gets a bit lost in the weeds around the finale, but it was good. It was fine. But I was looking for that one horror movie that truly, truly entertained me. That one horror movie that would make me want to rewatch it at least once a year for the rest of my life. And I'm adding The Black Phone to that list of those horror movies that I find epically rewatchable. This lived up to all my expectations. And I'm so happy to say that. Because, guys, I read the short story by Joe Hill. For those of you who may not know, Joe Hill, of course, is the son of Stephen King, and he's also a horror novelist like his father. And The Black Phone is one of my favorite short stories by him. It was adapted by the director Scott Derrickson for the big screen, and we got that trailer, that eerie, creepy ass trailer, so long ago, and just waiting for this to come out, guys. I went and see it, and now here's the thing. The Black Phone, it's more of it is a horror, but it's definitely more thriller type elements. The horror is there, but it's definitely more thriller elements. But I feel like they balance the both really well. And it may not be the kind of movie some people may watch it and say, that was okay, that kind of thing. But for me, this movie delivered on its story, on its characters, on its pacing, and yes, on its scares. So let's get into it. And I'll start, of course, with the things that I love the most. And that has to be here. For me, it's going to be the acting. This is a small cast of characters that we have here. We have 2 youngsters. I don't know them from anything previously, but their names are Madeline McGraw and Mason Thames. They play brother and sister here, Finn and I believe Gwen. And Finn is a young boy he's a bit shy. He's not very sure of himself. And his sister Gwen, she's the more confident of the 2, even though she's younger than he is. And they're dealing with things like bullying and all of that stuff. But in their neighborhood, what's also been happening is kids have been going missing left, right, and center. Mostly boys, or all boys as far as I can remember. And they have this man that the kids are calling the grabber, and they're saying if you say his name, he'll come and get you. And Gwen and Finn, they live with their father, played by Jeremy Davies. He's a character actor that once you see, well, you may not know the name, but once you see him, you'll be like, oh, it's that guy, and such a talented actor. He plays their father here, and he's a bit of an alcoholic. He's I don't know if somewhat is the right word, but he's abusive. And so the kids are dealing with a lot, And then we have here Ethan Hawke as the grabber, if you want to call him that. And if you think about it, that mask he's wearing in this, it makes me think of both The Purge, because he was in it, but also it has that Japanese oni, kind of those oni masks, those demon type masks, and the bottom half of it, he can change the mouth, so he can be frowning or angry or smiling. It is uber creepy. cinematically, this movie looks amazing. It definitely feels like it's set in the time period it's set in. It looks that way. It's not just about the costumes, but about the type of filters they use for the film. It has that kind of, it's clear, but it still has this kind of sepia tone thing going on to it that I quite like, you know. The score is, it's so well utilized because this movie does have jump scares in it, and while jump scares can be like the cheapest way to go for a scare in a horror movie, Derrickson utilizes them very effectively, and he doesn't overdo it. So when it hits, right? I went to see this with my best friend, and she basically jumped out of her seat, you know. And I don't usually get caught with jump scares, and there was actually one here that did catch me off guard. So, you know, huge props if you can get me to jump. And it did, it definitely did. The story here, it's a simple one, but I think why it's so effective is the fact that this stuff happens in real life. So there's that element of reality of kids being taken, put in with that whole supernatural element of this phone where the dead kids are calling this child and reaching out to him and trying to help him escape, you know. All of that comes together, and his, well, the sister, I'm not giving away anything here, guys, because this is all, this stuff is in trailer, so you can, you know, pull from there. His sister has dreams about him and about the kidnapped kids, and she's trying to find him, and it all comes together so well. The realistic stuff with the, you know, this man who's abducting children, with the elements of the paranormal stuff. It just works so well. It never feels ridiculous. It never feels over the top. And even Ethan Hawke's character, who I think for some people they may be like, so why was he doing this? What's his motivation? Because the movie never really explains any of that. He also looks different. So if you've read the book, the way he looks in the movie is not how he looks in the book, but I had no problems with that because Ethan Hawke absolutely nailed it. It's all about his vocal work here as well, guys, because the mask covers like 90% of his face, but the way he moves, and especially the way he speaks, he does sometimes this kind of a growly voice thing, and it's so disturbing. It makes the hairs on the back of your neck raise, you know. And I didn't need to know what this guy's motivations was, you know, because we did see with the kids, you know, there's a underlying theme of abuse, and abuse being repeated, and how it affects these kids, you know. And I feel like that's all we really needed to know. You know, you can kind of put two and two together. So or maybe this guy's just, you know, it's just sick, because there are people out there who've had terrible childhoods and grew up to be wonderful people, you know. So maybe this guy's just sick. But I think, like, if you think of the creeper in Jeepers Creepers, especially the creeper in the first movie, we didn't know anything at all about that character, and that is what made him so scary. And that's the same thing going on here, you know, is that we don't know anything about the grabber, and that's what makes it so terrifying, you know. So all of that stuff works well for me. There's even a kind of a Pennywise feel with the black balloons. Everything just comes together so well here, and the film, the runtime, the pacing, the tension, I just felt like it all worked. We got lots of time in the beginning to get to know these kids and their families and stuff, so that when anything happened to anyone, you felt it. You really did feel it. You connected with these characters. And that's the thing that makes a good horror movie effective. If you can connect with the characters, if you care about what's happening to them, then you definitely feel the fear that they want you to feel. So Derrickson and Joe Hill, they do a wonderful job of adapting this story and bringing it to life. Guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm sure you can tell. If there's any negatives for me, I honestly can't come up with many of them right now. I can't really think of anything right now, because I enjoyed this film so much. I look even the character of the kid's father, Jeremy Davies, is such a talented actor that you will find yourself sympathizing with this man even after seeing what he did with his kids earlier, because you understand it's coming not from a place of hatred but of a place of fear. He's afraid for them, you know. So guys, it all works really well, and there's not a ton of gore and stuff like that, but the movie doesn't need it, you know. It reminded me a bit of the first Conjuring movie, arguably for some people the best Conjuring movie. My favorite is actually part 2, but you don't need a lot of gore for a movie to be effectively scary. The first Halloween movie had none whatsoever, and then look how iconic that film has gone on to be. So yeah, the Black Phone, guys, for me, I think so far it's the best. It's the best horror movie for me for the year thus far. It's my favorite for the year thus far, and I give it so many points for being what I like to call rewatchable. You know, anytime there's a horror movie that I feel like I could stick in and watch over and over again, every year I could put that horror movie on and get what I got out of it the first time I saw it, that's a movie for me. And I feel like The Black Phone is that kind of movie for me that I will enjoy, not just rewatching it, but even telling my friends, hey, you need to check this movie out. So, all that said, guys, I'm giving The Black Phone an 8.5 out of 10. I had a blast with this film, and I think you should check it out if you haven't seen it as yet. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did like this video, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button. It's always appreciated. If you're new and you'd like to subscribe to my channel, you can click on my face when it pops up right about there, and you can check out past reviews, horror, comedy, all sorts of stuff right along this way. So until the next time, guys, bye bye.